Today, Maurice and I are going to be talking about whether or not you should do the field sobriety test. Let's get into it. So what is a field sobriety test?
It is a battery of standardized tests that several law enforcement agencies, federal and scientists and medical personnel have come up with in order to determine if an individual who has consumed alcohol is impaired by that consumption of alcohol. It involves three different portions of the test. One is the horizontal gaze nystagmus, which is where the officer is evaluating certain eye-jerking movements in your eyes. Next is the walk and turn test, where the officer has you perform a series of steps in a particular manner and also do a return 9 steps, and he observes how you perform on that portion of the test. And the last one is the one-leg stand, which is a test where the officer is literally evaluating how you stand on one foot for a certain period of time and ensuring that you're performing the test according to these standardized instructions.
And are these tests pass-fail? Like if you do great, they just send you home and...
They are not pass-fail, contrary to popular belief and contrary to officer opinion. It is really a tally system. Either there is something based upon your performance that's present or there is not.
And from these standardized tests, can the officer tell what your blood alcohol content is? Like if you're a 0.08 or a 0.16?
If the officer has expert training only with the horizontal gaze nystagmus and it's still not accurate, they can just determine if you have a possible blood alcohol content above a 0.08 based upon what they observe from the movement of your eyes.
We get this all the time where people call and say, you know, I fully cooperated, I did all the tests. Is that what you would recommend somebody to do if they have been drinking and driving and are pulled over by the police?
Just in my personal and professional opinion, no. A DUI is literally one of the few crimes where the evidence that officers obtain against you is that which you give them. So I would not advise anybody to do these tests.
I know a lot of people call us and they say, you know, like I was too nervous or I'm not a U.S. citizen. I was on the side of the road. I didn't know I could have refused. Are you still recommending refusal for those type of people?
Of course.
Why is that?
Again, it's one of those few crimes where what they have is what you hand on the platter to them. There may be a lot of variables that factor into why you perform poorly on this test or why you perform well. Again, they're on the road. Conditions aren't always appropriate. Traffic may be a distraction with regard to how you perform these tests. The officer may instruct you poorly on how to perform these tests. They may give you instructions on how to do it and show you completely something that's different from how they're to be formed, and you're confused about it. Obviously, it's a stressful situation. You have law enforcement there. So all in all, to be safe, I would not advise anybody to perform the standardized field sobriety test.
What are some like physical individual issues that somebody could have that would affect their ability to do the test well?
Concussions obviously affect how the eyes move and determine, a concussion may have some indicators there that ordinarily would not be there. If you're overweight, approximately by 50 pounds, that may affect your performance on this test. Your age, your physical limitations or capabilities, if you have injury, prior surgery, the road conditions, all of these are variables that factor into how an individual performs on this test and ultimately if the officer will use against you.
And what would you say to somebody that said, like, if I have had absolutely nothing to drink in the past 24 hours and I get stopped, I'm going to do the test? Would you recommend that?
Hey, if you want to, again, whatever the officer observes via your performance on those tests is going to count against you. So even if you haven't had a drink, I would not recommend you take these tests.
Yeah, a lot of times we see where people say up and down, I haven't been drinking, maybe even they blow, and then now you've done the test, the officer thought they saw indicators of impairment, now they're going to accuse you of being under the influence of drugs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I think if it was me and I knew like 100% certain I have not consumed any alcohol in 24 hours, nor have I put anything in my mouth like that could affect the breath device, I wouldn't do the fields, but I would offer to do the PBT.
I agree with that. I literally had a case where the client, he did the fields and his performance was amazing. He did the PBT. Well, the officer gave him the PBT before he did the fields. Obviously, there was no reading on it. That's why he did the fields. He did amazing on the fields, and that still didn't satisfy the officer. He gave him the PBT again, and it showed above a .08, and he arrested him.
Oh, wow. Did he use the same
No,
thing?
he used a different tube, but again, like he gave him the PBT before he had the
And it was
fields.
zeros? Yeah, then why do the fields?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They will find any
Any
and every way
reason.
to.
I think sometimes it's their ego. Like, I've pulled this person out of the car, I've asked them questions, I've done the fields. How could I like let them go now?
That and fear. Obviously, we know from historical standpoints, there have been officers early 90s, early 2000s that have released, DUI drivers from the scene. They end up getting into an accident and killing somebody. So it may be an ego, but partially I think it's a fear of, not wanting to be one of those that releases somebody that you thought was borderline, and then they go on down the road and kill someone.
Right. So what would you tell a client that asked you if they should do the fields if they've legitimately only had one drink, whether that's one beer, one glass of wine, or one cocktail?
Refuse. Again, like your body, it's not just the one drink. How an individual's body, how it digests and processes that drink may be different amongst a smorgasbord of other individuals. So, if you have somebody that's 5'3", 120 pounds, and they have one glass of wine versus me, I'm 6'3", 220, and I have one glass of wine, it's going to metabolize different. So, just don't do it to be on the safe side.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's your like weight, your height, your race even has an impact. Also, your drinking history.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're a big drinker or not a big drinker at all, what you had to eat that day, even like your mental health, if you're tired, if you, have been crying all day, like all of those things can affect the alcohol in your system, and you just never know. And we have people call us, that we talk to seriously like every day that have said like, I seriously thought I was going to blow under, So yeah, we recommend don't do the field sobriety tests ever.
Right.
There's a million different factors for you individually, and like the atmosphere, the environment that you're in that can negatively affect it, the officer that's giving the instructions. So just don't do the fields. Now, a lot of people are afraid if I don't do the fields, I'm going to get arrested. What do you say to that?
What if you do them and you get arrested?
Yeah, I agree. Like most likely, if they're asking you to do the field sobriety test, you are going to get arrested and charged with a DUI. The difference is, did you give the police the evidence, like Maurice was saying earlier, to use against you at trial? If the answer is no, you're giving us, as your defense attorneys, a much better chance of winning at trial and you being found not guilty of that DUI.
Yep.
Of course, the state's going to argue that your refusal shows that you're guilty, but I don't think judges take that super seriously because they hear it all the time, right? And I think a good judge would say to themselves, this individual has rights, they exercise their rights, and at the end of the day, do they have the evidence to prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? So we say refuse. Don't do the fields. If you've been drinking and driving, don't blow. And then if you were going to give somebody advice, which I think we do every time somebody does the fields and blows on a first-time DUI, if it ever happens to you again, how do you suggest that they speak to the officer? How do you refuse?
Obviously, don't be a dick about it. Be, firm in your position. Just say, at this time, I want a lawyer, and I will not proceed forward with any more of your requests.
I agree. I would just say respectfully, officer, I am not going to be making any admissions, and I'm not going to be performing any tests. I have seen people do that, and the officer pushes, well, why not? Well, why not? Well, if you're not drinking, just do it. I wouldn't answer those questions. I wouldn't change my tone. I wouldn't get frustrated. I would just continuously say, respectfully, officer, I'm not going to be doing any tests. And then in my opinion, I think you're going to get arrested. So just let yourself get arrested. Don't say anything. Don't do anything else. And call, a trusted DUI attorney after.
Yep.
If you want to learn more about DUIs or DUI laws, check out our other videos. 2 super cool ones are going to pop up right about here.